everybody. Welcome back to another live. I wanted to let everybody go ahead and have a chance to come on in and join us. I know that it's Monday and everybody's tired, but I'm hoping I have some good stuff for you. I have a couple things for you. If you'll notice in the description at the top, you'll see that there is a blurb, and at the top in the blurb it says something to the effect of sign up today for exclusive freebies and future tips and all that good stuff. If you sign up and click on that link, it takes you to my newsletter, and you'll be signing up for my newsletter, so I'll be sending any kind of updates and any kind of information to you there. But I also have for you guys a huge freebie. I think it's like 3 different centers that are differentiated, and I have them in color and in black and white, all on place value, and they're free. It's about 70 pages total, so it's a nice big old chunk of a freebie if you're looking for differentiated math centers. It is a great resource for you, and all you have to do is sign up for my newsletter. If you'd like to do that, just click on the link above and you can do that. You'll also see that there's a Shop My Store link. That is because I'm sure everybody knows today is the big one-day sale at Teachers Pay Teachers. If you use the code, you can get an extra 10% off, and you can also, I have my entire store 20% off, so it equals out to 28% off of what you purchase from my store. And if you're looking to buy math centers, I have a year's worth of math centers available. I have a year's, and they're all differentiated. I have a year's worth of ELA centers that are once again differentiated. I have ELA interactive notebooks for the entire year, and I have math interactive notebooks ready for the entire year. So I have tons of resources that are ready to go, and if you are looking to buy something like that for your classroom, this is the best time to buy it. You'll never find them cheaper than this. If you go to my store and go to the very top, it says Save with Bundles. You can see all of my good stuff right there. The next thing that you'll see, it should have a link, and I apologize if you see me looking down into the side. I have to look over to my computer screen so that I'm reading to you the right information. It says, get your hundreds chart freebie here. I have a nice fat freebie for you tonight just for watching this video, and it is from my brand new product that I just released today, and I'll be going over that with you, and I'm going to show you a teaching strategy for your students that will really help develop number sense and see number patterns. And then under that it says check out my videos below. So if you would, I would love to know what grade you teach and where you're from, because it does help me figure out what I'm saying, and if there's any questions, I can make sure I target questions appropriately and things like that. So if you'll just say, you know, Atlanta, Georgia, 2nd grade. So today what I want to talk about is the hundreds chart, and I know this is like the antiquated, like 2001 version of a hundreds chart. Now we have interactive boards, and they're fantastic to use, and you can use your interactive board for sure. I just don't have access to one right now for the video, so I'm going to use the old-fashioned pocket chart, hundreds chart, and if you don't have access to technology, it works just as good. If you do, good for you. I used it when I was in my classroom. I was lucky enough and blessed enough to have one, and I definitely used it for these lessons right here. And we're going to talk about today using the hundreds chart to develop number sense, place value concepts, and also just for kids to really develop that idea of how numbers work together. And some kids really do not have that internalized at all. You always hear kindergarten teachers are the masters of the hundreds chart. They use it for instruction all the time, and they're fantastic at it, but it's still actually worthwhile to be using it and teaching it in your 2nd grade classroom. So if you have it posted in your classroom, that's fantastic. If you're using it, that's even better. So I'm going to show you today some strategies and tips for you to use in your classroom with the hundreds charts that you can get tons and tons and tons from, and your kids can get a lot from it too. I found a quote from mathsolutions.com. It makes sense using the hundreds chart to build number sense by Melissa Conklin and Stephanie Sheffield. And I believe mathsolutions.com is Marilyn Burns's website and her company that she's created, and they do a lot of publishing in math books. So they said, why use the hundreds chart? And she said, Melissa and Stephanie said, the purpose of a hundreds chart is to provide a framework for students to think about our base 10 system and allow students to build a mental model of a mathematical structure of our number system. Hundreds charts allow children to explore concepts from counting to adding two-digit numbers. And that's what we're going to work on today. I wanted to show you, before we jumped into it, I want to show you I just released my hundreds chart pack, and I wanted to show you some of the things that you can find in that pack. It has tons and tons, it's almost 100 pages. I'm going to model for you some whole group teaching instruction. The pack itself has some whole group instruction. A lot of it is independent or partner practice for kids. One of the things it has are these number cards, and this is for kids who are struggling with before and after. And it has a set to one set to 20 and another set within 100. And this is the 100 set, and it's called Missing in the Haystacks. And kids can actually use a dry erase marker, and they can write the number that becomes before or after, and it's in all different orders. Like here, the number comes first, here the number is in the middle, and here the number is at the end. And these all have recording sheets, so if you'd like to use them as centers, that's perfect for that. Another one that I have, this one doesn't have a recording sheet, but it really doesn't need one. These are like pieces of the 100 chart right here. Can you see it without the glare? And so kids would use an expo marker and they would fill in the missing numbers. And there's several of these to give kids lots of different practice of counting, and it's not starting at 1, because you know some kids struggle when it's not starting at 1, and finding patterns in numbers. Another thing that is in that pack is I've taken a hundreds chart, and it is a puzzle, and it is done by strips, and so they could see the group, how it's in multiples of 10. Each row is a group of 10, so they can count it and build it this way with rows. And I also have the same puzzle where it goes down like this, so they could see the pattern as well. And another thing that is a good old-fashioned one is it has several different hundreds charts with blank pieces. And my daughter right now was doing this for homework. I had her working on it after school today because she's practicing her counting to 100. And so she just writes in the missing numbers within the blanks, and she uses a dry erase marker, and she loves it. Another one that it has in it I've made several interactive notebook games, and these are games that can be played over and over. It's just half a sheet of paper, and it uses either a penny to flip, or it uses a spinner. And I'm trying to make sure I can get it without a good glare so you can see it, but it's hard. Is that better? So right here, kids will use a spinner. Sorry, I'm backwards. A spinner right here. They'll use a pencil and a paper clip to create their own spinner. They'll spin it, and it has 1 space, 2 spaces, 3 spaces, 4. What they'll do is they'll choose any number between 1 and 20. They'll write it in the start box down here. They'll spin a space, and it's +1, +10, +0. So it's using those mental math skills of adding 10, 1, or subtracting 10 and 1. And they can create a chain of those math problems until they get to the end. And it's like a simple board game. They can play it over and over and over and record their work multiple times over on the stage. This is a similar one. It's run around the board. This one is +1 and -1. This one is an arrow race where they're using arrows on a spinner to go around the hundreds chart. That's going to relate to this activity I'm going to go over with you in just a minute. It has another one where instead of arrows, it's +1 and -1, and whoever gets farthest in the chart is the winner. Here they flip a penny, and one side is the heads is at +1 and the tails is -1. And then here is the same idea where they're racing through the charts, +1, +10. They're starting at 1 and then spinning. So it's lots of different practice using the hundreds chart, manipulating it, and working with those numbers to see patterns of adding 10 and 1 and subtracting 10 and 1. And this is just working with 10, and they start at the 10, and they have to flip flip the penny to get to 100, and then they can record their work right here. They can also do it here. This is another one where it's the same concept, but instead of where they're doing the +10, -10, it's the arrows, which I'm going to talk to you guys in just a little bit. So if you would like to do a simple activity for your kids that you could get tons of mileage out of, I'm going to show you my most favorite easy center with your kids and the hundreds chart. So you have a hundreds chart. In your freebie that I have listed for you where it says get your hundreds chart freebie here, and it has the link, this is included in it, and it is the build the hundreds chart activity. It is just simply a copy of a hundreds chart, and what I've done is I've copied it on colored copy paper. If you do this activity, I suggest you have several different colors. You might have a pink copy, blue copy, orange copy, purple copy. Then you're going to laminate it. And after you laminate it, you're going to cut the hundreds chart out, and you're going to create a puzzle. And so kids are going to use their understanding of the hundreds chart and how numbers work together to put it together. Now, because you're creating the puzzle, the size of the pieces and how you cut it apart can determine how difficult the puzzle is. Now, you could cut it into strips, which is part of that packet that I've already shown you if you wanted to make it really simple, or you could cut it like a real puzzle. When I did it in my classroom, I made them kind of hard. And sometimes you might want to have bigger chunks for maybe your kids that are still learning the hundreds chart. You can have big chunks. You may have kids that are really good at it, and you might want to really challenge them, and you might want to have tiny, tiny pieces, and that is okay too. So there's lots of different ways that you can do this. Now you might be saying, but Mandy, my kids are way past the hundreds chart and they're ready for something more. Oh, yes, they probably are ready for something more. So if you're thinking of something else, this doesn't have to be done with just the hundreds chart. In second grade, kids have to work with the numbers within 1,000. So if you create different charts that are of 100, from 101 to 200, and then another one 201 to 300, and 301 to 400. It's not in that pack, but I can go back if you guys want it. That's an easy add-on, so you can make sure that you're working with larger numbers. You could do the same activity, and I did this with my kids and they absolutely loved it, where they worked with puzzles with larger numbers, and it wasn't just within 100 or 120. So you can see I'm just basically cutting the puzzles out, and you can see that there's different sizes for the pieces right here, depending on where your kids are. If your kids are older in second grade, I didn't give them a, like you might want to give them a filled-in hundreds chart where they could lay the puzzle on top of and match it together. If they're younger, struggling learners, that might be something you might work on, so they have a mat to match it to. When I did it in second grade, I didn't provide anything, and they had just the pieces, and they put them together, and they did very well with it. And you can make as many of these as you want by just cutting out different variations and patterns in the actual puzzle. So if you would like a copy of the hundreds chart, I also have a cute little cover page and directions for kids all ready to go. It's in that freebie. That's something for you today. And let's talk about when you're working with a hundreds chart. So let's go to a whole group lesson. I'm going to use this right here. One of the things you could have with your kids is you can actually do something called build the hundreds chart. And what you could do is, I have all the numbers available right now just because I knew I needed it for later lessons. But if you were to do this activity with your kids, all the numbers would be covered. So if you wanted to, I have these little cardstock pieces that I just had to flip in front of numbers. You could do that, so that they're hidden, but they're still, you could still easily get to the numbers. And one of the things that you would want to be doing is, if you're building it, you could either, and I've done it both ways, actually give kids pieces of the hundreds chart so they'd actually have cards, or you could just have them covered and you can have them come up and talk. It depends on how much time you had. On the years I had more time, I would pass out the pieces. The years I didn't have time, I would just do what I'm doing right now. So I would continue doing this until I had several of the pieces closed. And what I would do is say, let's just say most of the board is already covered. I would look at it and say, okay, guys, we're going to be working with what we know about the hundreds chart. And I know y'all are masters of the hundreds chart, and you probably already know how it works. So I want you to show me what you know. So I've hidden some numbers, and I want you to try to figure out what these hidden numbers are. So who can tell me? And there would be many, many, many more pieces covered than this. I just don't want to take your time covering the board. Who could tell me where they think the number 88 would be? And you could call in kids to come up. And one of the things you want to look for, are they looking to the top of the board, or are they looking to the bottom of the board? Because if they're looking to the bottom of the board, you already know that they have the idea that 88 is closer to 100. And you also want to see if they're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, one by one, if they have one-to-one counting, or if they're doing 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 is also a good hint, because they also are able to count by tens. Are they starting with, actually, like, if let's just say 87 was available, are they able to actually read the number and know that it's 87 and not 78, so you're checking for reversals? So you have kids like say, okay, so it's right here. You can have them uncover and check and say, oh, you were right. How did you know that 88 went there? And the kid could say something like, I will know that 88 is one more than 87, so how to go here. Or 88 is between 87 and 89. Or I know that if I count 88 times, it is there. We really hope that's not going to happen, but it could happen. It depends. And you might even want to start for your first number. You may even want to start something like 14 or 13 or something smaller where they could see where they could actually do the one-by-one counting, and it would not take a million years to, is something to think about. So that is something that you could do with your kids. You could do that several different times. You could increase the amount of numbers that are covered each day. So the first couple days you may not have as many numbers covered, and progressively do this with over the days and have more and more of the board covered where they have to use their skills that they learned. You can also do things like, let's count starting at 43, and you can go 43, 44, 45 to see if kids can do that. Well, let's count backwards starting at 57 and have them count backwards. You can count by tens. You could really throw them out and be like, okay, we're going to do this tricky thing by counting by tens, but first we have to do some learning about the board. And you're going to talk about what they notice about the board. So after they've done this for several days, you're going to ask what they notice about how the numbers relate together. So let's just say the number 15. Well, what do you notice about 15 and the numbers around it? So you'd want to lead kids to understand that 16 is one more than 15. And 14 is one less than 15. So you talk several times and you'd use the words, yes, when you move to the right on the hundreds chart, you're increasing by 1. You're counting up by 1. If you're moving to the left on the hundreds chart, you're decreasing by 1. Or you're counting back 1. And that's also in like the number line going right and left. So you'll want to do that a couple times. You'd want to do that many times over the board so they can understand that no matter if you're at 58 down here, you could say, well, what do you notice about 58 and 59? It's one apart, and which one's bigger? 59. So this is increasing or one more than 58. Well, what do you know about the number next to it on this side? Well, 57 is one less. It has decreased by 1, and you're getting a lot of rich mathematical vocabulary by doing this. So that is one strategy you can do. Then, after you've talked about that several times, you want to talk about the relationship between the top and the bottom. And you can say, okay, well, let's just look at number 15 again. What do you notice about 5 and 15 and 25 and 35 and 45 and 55 and 60? And you want them to realize that every number in the ones place when you're going down the column ends in the same digit. So you're going to notice that all these end in 3, all these end in 4, all these end in 5. Well, why is that? Well, because this right here, these are all increasing. When you move down the chart, they're increasing by 10. I know that because 1, 2, 3, if I start up here and I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 10 apart. Let's just see. Is 15 and 25 10 apart? I'm not sure about this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're 10 apart too. And you can model that several times going down the chart. So kids realize that when you're moving down the chart, the space directly below it is increasing by 10. You're adding 10. You'll do that multiple times. It may even be a couple days of that. Then you'll say, all right, well, I wonder if we're down, let's just say 73. What do you notice about 73 and 63? How are they related? And you can say, well, they both have a 3. Okay, so we've talked about how when we were doing it here, that when they had the same number in the ones place, said they're counting with 10. I wonder if that's the same. So let's start at 73 and let's go up, or let's go back to 63. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hey, that's 10 apart too. So if I'm going up, I'm counting back, or getting smaller and decreasing, by 10. And you'll do that multiple times. And after you've done that and kids are starting to realize the pattern, when you go to the right, increasing 1, left is decreasing 1, down, increasing 10, up is decreasing 10. Once they start seeing these patterns, you can say, okay, since y'all are so smart and you know how the hundreds chart works, let's do some skip counting. And we're not going to do easy skip counting like you may be used to. We're not going to skip count by 10 starting at 10 because that's way too easy. I bet, because you know how the 100 chart works, you can start at 4 and you can skip count by 10. And you could show them going 4, 14, 24, 34, how these are all still skip counting by 10 because you're increasing by 10. And you can do that several times on the chart. So what you're doing is you're doing different kinds of skip counting, starting at different numbers. Another thing you might want to start at is doing the opposite. You might want to say, okay, since you're so smart and we're able to skip count by 10 at any number, I wonder if we could skip count backwards by 10. So let's start at 68 and let's skip count backwards. And if they know that going backwards is decreasing and you've learned that it's minus 10, they'll be able to skip count up this way, 68, 58, 48, 38, 28, all that, and they'll be able to do that. Now, that is several days worth of lessons right there. You might take maybe a good solid week just to cover that information, to build the board, to figure out where numbers are, see the relationship with increasing and decreasing, how going down the board is going to be increasing, going back upwards is going to be decreasing. Those are like several days worth of lessons. Even in second grade, I would spend a solid week on that. Especially because in second grade, one of the standards is that kids can mentally add and subtract with 10 or 100. So this is really focusing on the 10. Now, if you were to do this also later in the year, you could do the same activity, but not with a 1 to 100 chart. You could do it with a 201 to 300 chart. So you could change the chart itself, do the same activities, and they can still be working on those mental math skills. Now, another thing I want to talk to you guys is about arrow math. And this is a really, really fun thing I like to do with my kids. It's like secret codes. And what you'll do is you'll say, okay, kids, we're going to talk about a secret code. Oops, I did it wrong. We're going to start over here. Sorry. You're going to have, some people use a cookie tray and they make these, their magnets and their numbers and their areas. They make their arrows and their numbers magnetized. Sorry. You might do it on just a Promethean board or a smart board, so you could just write it out to the side. There's lots of different ways to do it. You could do it like I did and have a pocket chart ready to go. What you're going to want to do is after you've done all these lessons, you're going to talk about how moving across the hundreds chart, I would focus on one direction at a time. So you'll say, okay, my magic number I'm starting at is 2. What's my secret number I'm ending at? Each one of these arrows is a space on the hundreds chart. So let's look. So if I have one arrow, I've got 3, 4, 5. My magic number is 5. And they're going to use that. And you don't have to have them cover it like I did. You might want to do that to begin with. And you may want to actually, you should be changing the number that you start with many times. And you're going to start as simple as you can. So like 58 is your start number. And after you've done several arrows, move increasing by 1. And you'll talk to your kids, this is increasing by 1. 1 hop to the right. You'll say, oh, we got a new number. It's 58. And this is going to be a harder one because this is talking about almost, I guess it's almost like a return sweep like it is in reading. How it would, oh, actually it's not. That would be better. Actually, this would be a really good one to do after you've talked about it because they would have to do like a return sweep. You'd have to say, there's one arrow, one more arrow, another arrow. So it's increasing 1, 2, 3. My secret number is 61. Now, you could also, after that, you're going to practice your arrows going the other direction so the kids can get used to it going multiple ways. So after you've done increasing by 1, you're going to do decreasing by 1 so that you'll say, okay, well, our secret start number is 58. What is my secret code number at the end? And they'll hop 3 times and realize that the number is 1 hop, 2 hop, 3 hops, it's 55. Then you're going to start doing all the arrows like this. So my magic start number is 7. So you're going to start at 7 and be like, okay, what do you think I'm going to do on the board? My arrow is pointing down. What do you think that means? And you're talking about, okay, this is increasing by 10. So I'm going to hop 1 arrow, 2 arrows, 3 arrow. My magic number that I'm stopping at is 37. You're going to do that several times. And then you're going to do all the arrows pointing up. And so you'll change your magic start number. And this is easy. It's like, oh, easy. Kids will get it. And you'll say, okay, so let's change our number. Let's go up. This is decreasing by 10. Each one of these is minus 10. So minus 10 more, minus 10 more. My answer is 50. You're going to do this several times. Then the magic of it is not just with arrows going the same direction. The magic starts to happen because what this is doing is it's leading to mental math for addition and subtraction with 10 and 1, but it can also do multiples of 10 and 1. So you'll say, okay, so I'm going to start at, sorry, I got 500 bags over here. I'm going to start at 80. And can y'all see that? Is it showing up down here? For the most part. I'm going to scoot it over so you guys can see it better. All right. So with my arrow, I'm at 80. That's my magic start number. What's my secret end number? All right. It says I'm going to go over 1. I'm adding 1. Oops. I'm going back 10. Subtracting 10. I'm subtracting 10 more. Oop. I got to go back 1. And back 10. My magic ending number is 50. And if you have a whiteboard, what you can do is you can actually record the trail or the number path by saying 80 plus 1 minus 10 minus 10 minus 1 minus 10 is 50. This is where you start getting more advanced. So you could do this all different times. You can have your kids make their own paths where they're mixing up the arrows in all different directions and figuring out what the magic secret end number is. And once kids have mastered using those arrows and they have realized that you're increasing and you're decreasing, what are you increasing or decreasing by? You can have them use cards where it's no longer arrows, where it's actually plus 10, minus 10, that's minus 10. I have a set of minus 1s. I have a set of plus 1s. And a set of plus 10. So you could actually move away from the arrows so that instead of using just the directionality on the hundreds chart, they have to use what they know about mental math and apply it to the hundreds chart and then come up with the answer. So those get real tricky. And a lot of those are the games that were part of the interactive notebooks here that I was talking about, where they use the spinners and they moved with the arrows, because I know that was confusing to see the arrows before the lesson. Let me see if I can find one. Like here, they use the pennies to tell the arrows which way to go. So if you've done this, they'll be able to do it. So that is another way that you can work with the hundreds chart. You could also do hidden pictures, excuse me, where you give clues. You know, I'm thinking of a number that is more than 63, and you'll have kids guess. And so I'm going to cover these up. Not hidden pictures, I'm sorry, you can do that too. This is like a hidden number. I used to do this all the time with my kids. And we would actually keep track, and I'd write it down on the whiteboard so they would see what wasn't working. But I'd say, okay, I'm thinking of a number more than 63, and someone would guess. And if they guessed 35, I knew they didn't have strong number sense because that number is not greater than 63. But if they guessed 75, I would say, oh, and if it was, you know, you got my number. But usually they didn't get it. So no, it is not 75. And then they would ask a question. Is your number greater than 79 or less than 83? And by asking questions yes and back and forth, and they can tell me yes and no, they can narrow down the hundreds chart to figure out what the magic number is. And that's a very fun game that we would do a lot of times when we just had a few minutes left. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to look over here at the computer and see if you guys have any questions. Before I head on out for tonight, I hope I gave you some ideas for whole group lessons for the hundreds chart. And I'm trying to get my computer to go. Whoa, I went too far. Oh, good. It looks like some people are going to use the, it looks like there's a couple people that are, hey, Angel. Belinda, you must like some math ideas. That was very sweet of you. Thank you. So good. So if you are looking for some ideas, I would do the hundreds chart. I would honestly, I didn't even mention this in the beginning. Part of the reason I chose to do the hundreds chart today is because I've been really focusing in the last couple of videos talking about the math workshop. What is a math workshop supposed to look like as a whole? What are the pieces of it? What are you supposed to do as part of your mini lesson? What does an activity look like in a small group? And I use place value as a model. Those are all past videos. If you look at the video link, which is included in the description above, it'll take you to all my past videos so you can see those pieces of the math workshop. In my head, I thought, you know, sometimes the share time is really, really hard in math. So Like you might say, okay, what did you learn today? And kids might give you a response or two, but you may want to use do something else with your time. It may not be enough. And I found that the hundreds chart was a great activity for either mini lesson or even as sharing time to close up and talk about what you've learned and to apply your learning today, especially with the mental math and increasing and decreasing and all that kind of thing. So you might want to look into using Aramath. You might want to look into doing some of these puzzles if they fly at me. You might want to consider doing the number path where they do plus, I call it number path where they do plus and minus numbers. So there's lots of different things coming at you, and I hope you can use some of them today. If you have any other questions, I hope that you leave the comments, leave your question in the comment, and I will do my very best to answer it. I hope you have a fabulous rest of the week. My plan is to go live next Monday about something. I don't know what yet. Actually, I do have an idea. I think you actually, now I think about it, I already know what I'm going to talk about. And it's about developing number sense and helping with basic addition and subtraction facts with your kids. And I don't know about you, but even up in 3rd grade, some of my kids had not mastered basic fact mastery. So what I'm going to talk about next Monday is how you can help with that in your own classroom. I hope you have a wonderful and blessed week. Thank you so much for tuning in.